Welcome to the first episode of Whole Lotta Wolves. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
And I'm Paula Page.
And this week, we are joined by our first guest, and it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Wood from Wolves WWFC Ohio. Chris, say hello.
Howdy, Wolves away from Columbus, Ohio.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how your support of Wolves came about.
Well, I'm Chris Wood. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I'm 35. I've been a Wolves fan since, it's easy to place it because it was the playoff final in 2003. I know most people, can't really pinpoint when they started other than like going to their very first game. But I was in high school. I was 18. I just started watching football. My buddy got me into it right after the World Cup in 2002. He gave me a bootleg copy of the FIFA, the World Cup. So, then I actually found it. I actually had it on TV. It was back when it was still Fox Sports World. Very first game I remember watching was Man U versus Arsenal. It was the one game where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got punched in the face by Sol Camp. So I started following it. Then, I kind of hopped on the Man U bandwagon because in Ohio, our big American football team is the Ohio State, which they wear red or scarlet. Later in the season, they started talking about promotion and relegation, which, we don't have it over here. So I noticed I actually had the playoffs on TV. I missed the semifinal, so I didn't get to see a couple of great games against Reading, but I did catch the final, at least the latter half. Wolves are already up 3-0, but I did catch Matt Murray's penalty save. I've been a fan of it ever since. And then the very first full game I remember watching was when they played Man U the season later, where we won 1-0 with Kenny Miller scoring.
That's awesome. And, not too long ago, I heard you got to go to England and finally catch a game up there.
Yeah, I went to the Southampton game last season, or the season before last. We won 2-0. Ivan Cavallero and Johnny Otto scored in that game. Then I went later in the season the next year against Brighton, but it was a 0-0 draw. But I got to sit the South Bank. But of course, I didn't get to experience the limbs though. Next time, yeah. And then I was supposed to go last season for Crystal Palace, second to last game this season, but of course that didn't happen.
Unfortunately not. I'm really hoping that fans are able to get back in the stands soon, because I do feel like that's a little bit of missing atmosphere there.
Yeah, I'm actually watching Columbus versus Cincinnati right now. They actually have about 1,500 fans in the stands, and it sounds so much better because I actually have surround sound in my room. So when I was watching games, it actually felt like I was there. But even with 1,500 in the stadium, it actually sounds 10 times better than the fake.
I was laughing because they had fake noise out here for the Houston Dynamo game, and honestly, it sounded like there was more crowd in the fake noise than the real one. So one feature we're going to start to cover each week is Molyneux Memories. And for some of the newer fans like me, we don't really know a lot of the heritage of the club. So this is a great time for Paul to kind of educate us on the history and some of the more impactful moments and games of Wolves. We're in a little different situation this time because it's not that traditional early August start, but it's still not too late to talk about best opening day memories. So, Paul, kind of tell me what you think of when you think of opening day.
Big shout out on this one, where I posted a similar question on the Molyneux Mixed forum. And of course, we'll be linking out to that in the show notes if this forum's new to you guys listening. But there was some that really kind of stood out to me and my experiences. The first one, it was a little before my time of actively following the team, but it's probably the most infamous one. And it was Wolves away at Scarborough back in 1987, and it was a 2-2 draw. It was back when Wolves were in the very bottom tier of professional English football. But even then, the Wolves fans travelled in their thousands. For those that you don't know, Scarborough is a seaside town on the coast of England. So it was the middle of summer, lots of people going there. A few drinks consumed, no doubt, and definitely a time back in England when football fans certainly weren't on their best behaviours. It's remembered less so definitely for the game, but more so for a Wolves fan actually getting up onto the roof of one of the stands, and it was pretty old, and he fell through it, fell 20 feet onto the concrete below and miraculously survived. And you can actually look it up. You can't see the fall, but you do see the guy being carted out of the ground, not looking too healthy. There's a clip from the Sports Report on YouTube. Next one, shout out on some of the contributors here, Stoichkov, Hot Fuzz, and friend of the show, Shergar. They all mentioned this one. I remember it distinctly. It was the 93-94 kickoff, and it was at home versus Bristol City, and this was in the old second division, which is now the Championship. And we were really one of the side to beat at the time, because we got the only handful of benefactors, rich, kind of putting money behind the team in the division, and the stadium was being redeveloped by Sir Jack, and we'd had a big summer of spending. And the one that really stood out was the signing of Jeff Thomas, who at the time, he was 28, 29, England international, and it was such a coup at the time. I'd say now you'd be the equivalent of around probably a 20 million signing for the quality that he brought. So he came in. We had Kevin Keane arrive, a wide midfielder, winger from big money from West Ham, and also David Kelly from Newcastle. He came in to partner Bully up front. Bully grabbed a couple of goals on that day. We won 3-1, but it was just so typical for that era of football in the mid-90s at Wolves that there was just so much potential. We were always so close, but ultimately we were always underachieving. Some of the others that got mentioned, one from 1996 who had an opening day hat-trick. That was Bully scoring 3 away in a win, 3-1 win against Grimsby. Norwegian Wolf on Molyneux Mix detailed this one. It was back to 1997, and a certain 17-year-old making his debut, which was Robbie Keane. Remember him? He of LA Galaxy fame, 2 goals away at Norwich. I think every fan realised what a talent we had on our hands, and 250 career goals later, 68 for the Irish national team. I think that proved everyone right. And we distinctly, we've had some opening day shockers too. What one that stood out was after the playoff final that you talked about, Chris, that first season, that first experience of Premier League football back in the top flight, and we went to Blackburn. We got absolutely pumped. It was 5-1, and it was such an eye-opener to how thoroughly unprepared we were to really compete that season. But more recently, though, kind of Nuno's first game, it's always a nice one to look back to. You know, we beat Middlesbrough, the first time that many of us really got to see this new look Wolves and playing in a style that we'd never really witnessed. And I think that result gave us an idea that we're on the verge of something special. Can you think kind of back to that game, Chris, and what you thought at the time?
Actually, I didn't get to watch the game live. We watched the highlights, but I'm actually going to go back a little further to preseason when he actually moved Connor Cody back to the center of defense. I'm like, I remember watching a couple of the preseason games. I'm like, this could actually work. I'm like, a couple of things. I'm like, here and there, he's still learning, but I'm like, I thought this could actually work. I'm like, when we went into the very first game after beating Leicester 1-0, I'm like, I think we'll go up this year especially after like five games after we were undefeated until we met Cardiff. But when I saw Leo Bonatini get the only goal, I'm like, if we can keep this up, we already beat one of the promotion contenders. I'm like, we should be good this season.
Yeah, it set the both Cody's position and that result. Yeah, really set us up well for that promotion campaign. And I look back fondly to that first year after promotion as well, being a home game when Everton came into town. It was a 2-2 draw, but it really announced the likes of Neves and Jimenez, who both went up to the top division and both scored. Again, it showed that we had something about us, and we were going to concede, but we didn't let our heads drop, and it was a good battling performance. And that
we weren't just here to make the numbers. We're actually coming up to compete.
Yeah, very much so. And likewise last season, and one of the comments on the forum was it was actually our first home game last season was the Europa League qualifier. So it really shows you how far we've come, that we've seen that progress, and ultimately we enjoyed European football last year.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Absolute blast. I remember beginning of the first Premier League game. I was at the pub, and I remember watching the pundits at the beginning of the game. They said the whole place was shaking. I'm like, it was so loud, and everyone was pumped for it.
So ahead of this year's kickoff, we have to look at how the off season's been for us. And guys, I feel like if we had recorded this on Friday, it would have a lot different tone than what we are going to have today, because it has been a crazy weekend of signings, and we are finally seeing action in the transfer window. What do you guys think so far?
Still have a little ways to go, but I think starting off, it looks really good. I mean, we got another striker to compete with Leo Campagna and Raul Jimenez. I heard Martial can play either a left wing back or left center back, so we got cover there. And I actually might have seen a dodgy Twitter rumor that Ruben Vinagre might be going to Porto.
Yeah, I saw that tonight too as well. That'll be interesting, I think. We're looking at trying to replace Johnny already heading into the offseason, and then we sold Doc over to Tottenham. So suddenly, with our 5-back system, doesn't have any wing backs.
Yep. I mean, I kind of want to see Oscar Burr play, because I still remember his goal against Hull City.
It's going to be interesting because those wing backs are so pivotal to the way we play and the way we set up. I think the Vinagre one is interesting for me. Has Nuno lost patience with him, or is there someone out there that's coming in as a possible replacement that can take his role up a notch? Because that's what we're hoping that happens on the right hand side with Doherty, but that's for him in particular, that's a lot of assists and a lot of goals to replace. So if that's going to be happening on both sides, what's the plan, and how are we going to shape up kind of with two completely new players new to the team coming in those key positions?
Yeah, I was a little worried about Vinagre anyways. I like to call him Captain Stepover. I didn't know if we'd be able to be successful starting him all year on that left side. So can't say I'll be sad if he goes to Porto, but I'm very intrigued to see how he's replaced.
It's going to be certainly an interesting few days, and certainly an interesting path up to the close of the window as well. I think there's probably deals to be had all the way through till that comes to a close.
When they signed Otto, they said he can play either side of the ball. I always thought you might get another left wing back and move Johnny over to the right, and have him start there. But then, of course, he gets injured, so he went up for at least half of the season.
Yeah, that was a tough injury. So with Fabio Silva, for you guys, is this the most shock signing since Ruben Neves?
I think so. In terms that when you look through some of the names mentioned that we've seen since the start of the close season, I think he may have been mentioned in the first week along with someone else, but it was kind of dismissed. 120 million buyout clause or whatever it was, and it was just journalists trying to put 2 and 2 together and coming out with 6. But for it to go from that one mention weeks ago, in a matter of hours yesterday, it was rumored through a dodgy, a dodgy photo of Jeff Shee having a meal with someone, where people were trying to guess whose eyebrows there were, to being signed. It's crazy, kind of the quickness that it moved, and I think just the profile of the player. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's a real compliment to our forward line. he's definitely kind of heir apparent to Raul. I think can be very similar in the way they play, the way that they're set up, but equally, I think there's scope for the two of them to play together as well if there's two up front. So yeah, for me personally, I think it's a great bit of business. It's a transfer record, but it's definitely an investment in the future. Seems the kid's only 18.
For me, it came out of nowhere. Everyone is pant wetting on Twitter because Fosun like to keep everything close to the chest. It's almost like Chinese government secret or Chinese government level secrecy. Like we know they're not going to leak anything out until like it's like the day of. And then I saw the photo of Martial at Molly knew someone took a like long range photo, and they're like, oh, we know someone's coming, but we can't say who exactly. But I also think that I still say Leo Campagna still needs game time. If you've seen the recent photos of him, he's actually bulked up since we signed him. He's not a beanpole anymore. But I will say, yeah, 35 mil for a 18-year-old. I'm like, there's a certain other Portuguese player that was signed. When he was 18, he only had 3 goals to his name in a top level football. I'm like, we all know that guy's Cristiano Ronaldo, but I've heard he could be the next one. So we'll see what happens.
He's got a fantastic head of hair, and it was much better than Ronaldo's at 18. So
yeah,
based on his hairstyle alone, I think we've got the right guy.
But speaking of Ronaldo, he's actually never won at Molyneux.
Yeah,
because he actually started at the game when Kenny Miller scored the only goal.
Yeah, and I think what Silva's going to be learning a lot under Raul, and I think that really is going to make him successful because he's coming in. There's a large Portuguese contingent there, so he's already going to be comfortable. We're not going to have the Catrone situation from last year, and learning behind Raul. I mean, I can't really think of a better situation for him to. There's not going to be that pressure early on. He can sit back, he can develop, and then I think probably once the calendar turns to 2021 is when we'll start seeing him in action a little bit more, and it'll be a lot of fun.
I think for me, and we've got a long way to go on this till the window shuts, but this particular signing gives me a lot of confidence that Raul's going to stay, that he's the main man, he's number one. Silva's come in as kind of his understudy, but there's nothing from what I really see that would prompt Raul to think, well, do I want to push for a move now? He's the number 9. He's got his backup. He's got some support. I think that bodes well. Kind of cross fingers, toes, knock on wood. But hopefully, it's an indication that Mr. Jimenez is staying.
Yeah, he's too important marketing wise. I think. I mean, it would take a huge bid just to even get Wolves to consider selling him off. And I think he enjoys Wolverhampton because he can go out and walk his dog and not get swarmed like he is in Mexico everywhere he goes. And would you have that in London going to Man U or if he went to Juventus? I don't think so.
That status for sure, that it's important to him to be the main man, but feel part of it, feel loved and adored, and he gets that tremendously from the Wolves fans that they've really taken to him. And if he was going to go, and similar for Traore, the amount of money that both would cost another team, that's the type of deal that I think would have happened sooner within the window. So it's another kind of, again, reassurance to me that if either of those players were going to get sold, it would probably been earlier in the summer. Whereas now, yeah, for me, I can't see it happening. I just hope that feeling in my gut is the right one, and we get to keep them.
And I don't think we can, have this segment without talking about Doc. A great 10 years. What's you guys' favorite Doherty moment?
I'm gonna say his airness. I can't remember what game it was against. I think it was. All I remember is he went up for a header. It looked like he jumped 6 feet in the air and he knocked it into the goal. I think it was against Sheffield Wednesday, or I can't remember who it was against, but I remember he went straight up in the air and looked like Michael Jordan.
Mine's kind of it's somewhat of an overlooked one, but his goal when we beat Crystal Palace away the first season back in the Premier, it's a 1-0 win. Again, that was the type of goal that really showed you his importance in the position. And at the time, it kind of put, again, another stake in the ground of how well we'd started out that season, and we were going away and we were setting up well, and we were battling late and coming away with a win. So that one stands out for me, but he's always chipped in with some important goals for sure.
Yeah, and I think my favorite's got to be Man City at home this year. I mean, that was quite a game. Paul, you should have seen him jumping around like crazy when that goal went in.
Actually, when I was updating Wolves USA, I almost threw my iPad through the TV.
Nick's place in Houston definitely got loud at that moment. So any other predictions here over this next week on who we think Wolves are going to bring in? Paul, you seem to have a little bit of insight.
I'm trying to keep up with it, but there seems so many moving parts and speculation and kind of names being linked and corroborated on Twitter or not. I don't know. I'm going to stick to the old adage that until they're holding up the shirt, I'm not going to believe a thing. But you can't not help get excited. And as you rightly put a few minutes ago, the feeling now compared to the feeling on Friday when it was all doom and gloom and the sky was falling in and China were pulling out and Nuno's leaving and Jeff Shee don't know what he's doing. It's been night and day just over the course of this weekend. So I think we're going to have an exciting week.
Well, speaking of Jeff Shee, like his face in both of the photos when he's holding the kid up with the player, is like you need to put a Thug Life meme on top of it.
Yeah.
But I've seen some other rumors that supposedly we might have 2 more coming in this week. I heard we might have a mystery midfielder on loan tomorrow. And then there are like 2 more kids from Porto and like the one defender from Barcelona. And I saw we might be in for Vincinius or whatever. I can't remember. I can't say his name right, but it's who knows. And like you said, until I see him holding the jersey up, I'm not gonna believe it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that the midfielder coming in on loan is Thomas Lamar. I think that just makes the most sense. Them trying to loan him out, Atletico trying to loan him out, rebuild his value, and Wolves would be a great spot for it. So I'd like to see him come in with a loan and an option to buy, but we'll see. Like you said, a lot of names getting thrown out there right now.
Pretty much every Portuguese name.
Yeah. Are you Portuguese? Yes. Is Mendes your agent? Yes. Okay. Wolves want you.
And then I put that one clip from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas out there. Like, you're not Portuguese, man.
And then we bring in a Brazilian. So I guess if you're not Portuguese,
if
you speak Portuguese, come on in.
If he speaks Portuguese, he's probably Portuguese.
Let's go ahead and give our take on the game for this week against Sheffield United. How we feeling?
If we had the same exact game we did after the restart, I do not want to watch it. But if they actually have their heads down, or if they have their heads up and they got fire in their belly, we should do fine.
I'm inclined to agree 100%. I'm excited about the new season. I'm excited that they've had a bit of a break and can recharge their batteries, and I'm excited about how the team's going to evolve and who's going to start. I think it really it fits into the start of our season that is well, you say it's relatively easy. No one ever knows. It looks like it on paper, but that's the type of game first up that you'd like to think that if we can go to Bramall Lane and pick up 3 points, there's probably no better time of the season to go and do it. So I think we can go up there with a bit of confidence, and it could set us off to go on a nice little run early doors and set us up for a good season.
Yeah, I think being fresh and not having European football early on is going to help the early season results, because last year Wolves got off to a slow start in Premier League, and it was already because they were starting to rack up some minutes. So they should be nice and fresh. Hopefully the wingback situation is sorted out. I'm going to guess Adama's going to start at right wingback for that first game.
Yeah, I kind of see Neto and Podence start on the wings.
Yeah, with Jota coming off the bench. So, I mean, it'll be a lot of the same, familiar faces, but that's not a bad thing with how successful they've been the last couple years.
They only have a week to bleed the new guys in too.
Yeah, and we know that's never going to happen under Nuno.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these guys we probably won't see until October at the soonest would be my guess. So what kind of predictions we got here?
I'm going to go 1-0 Wolves.
I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to have to say a 1-1 draw. We're going to take a closer look at the opponents. Today, we're going to welcome Chad Jarvis, who runs Blades in the USA on Twitter. How's it going today, Chad?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're pretty good. It's been an exciting few days to be a Wolves fan.
Good deal. So, Chad, we've got some kind of questions for you about the team and your expectations as you head into this new season. But I'm going to kick off and I'm going to ask about something that happened a few years ago and whether there was disappointment amongst the fan base when Ned Stark, Warden of the North, was forced into early retirement due to that nasty neck injury. What were your thoughts from that tragic time?
It was a tough time, and it was just something that I don't know. I was just.
No one saw it coming, did they? Really?
No, it was just a tough time for me and the whole fan base.
Yeah. So for those that you don't know, we're totally geeking out about Game of Thrones, and you might not know that Ned Stark, he's played by a massive Sheffield United fan, Sean Bean, and I actually forget. There's a really cheesy film, probably from the mid-90s, where he's like a star striker for Sheffield United. And it's a really bad movie, but if you haven't found it, you'll need to look it up just for kind of the cheese factor. So
now, does he die in that one? Because he seems to die in all the other movies.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's kind of a last-minute winner on the back post or something like that. But yeah, very cheesy. But yeah, good deal.
All right. Well, now let's go back to the pitch here for a little bit. So Sheffield United has had a real similar rise to Wolves. What's it been like to follow this team over the past 4 years since you guys were in League One?
Well, it certainly has been a roller coaster ride, with most of it going up on the upswing. But when Chrissy Wilder took over and we were bottom of League One, and it's like somebody has to come in and change the tide, turn the tide, so to speak. And then he came in and we lost our first 4 matches, and we're like, I don't know if this is going to work out. We've got a true Blade through and through, grew up in the town and boyhood club. And then he got the ball rolling and we started to ascend through the leagues. And when we made it to the Prem, it was just unbelievable. It was crazy. It was certainly one of the greatest moments ever.
Yeah. So was getting promotions one thing, but that success that you enjoyed last season, was that even in anyone's thoughts when you kicked off? Were you kind of scrapping for your lives? Did anyone really think that you would hit the heights that you did?
I for sure didn't. I thought everybody had his tip for relegation come the beginning of last season, and I just had an inkling. I was like, you know what? I think we're gonna get this thing going in the right direction, and I don't think we're gonna be in the bottom. We may be in the bottom half, 12th to 15th somewhere, but I think we'll be far enough ahead of the drop zone. And when it started, results started coming in, and it was like we should have beat Tottenham, but we drew, and we came back from 2 down against Chelsea and drew 2-2 at Stamford Bridge, and it just all these results. The United game where it was 3-3 and we should have won that because we were the better side.
Yeah,
just all these results started coming in, and you see us, we're flirting with Europe, and it's like Yeah, it'd be cool to go to Europe and have these big name teams in Europa League, or if we were to manage the Champions League, to come to Bramall Lane and play. And it's like, that would be kind of cool. But I mean, yeah, I did not see the success coming at all.
So I thought you guys got a really sneaky transfer in January when Sander Berg signed with you guys. How important was he to the team? Because it seemed once the restart happened, he just was really a key for you guys.
Yeah, when he came in January, when he signed, and then they started, because it was going back between putting him in the starting lineup and having Lundstrom still play, and so Berger wasn't getting enough playing time. So when the lockdown hit, and then it came back, and he comes out and he is just like a man playing out of his mind, a man with his hair on fire, and then he scores his first goal, and he's getting putting in all kinds of assists and everything. It's like, okay, this is the man we paid all this money for in the transfer window. I mean, comparatively to the big six teams, I mean, a small transfer like this for him, but for us, it's a huge signing. And it's like, okay, I'm curious to see what he does now this year coming into this season with all this momentum from such a good finish to the season last year, if he can get more goals and more assists and give us what we need in the midfield.
Good deal. So, out of those star performers, who kind of took your Player of the Year awards last year?
Well, my Player of the Year was Hendo, but if you're talking about an actual Sheffield United player, I can't go wrong with Chris Basham. He was the club's Player of the Year, and I mean, he was an absolute rock at the back. I mean, you can just go on various websites and look at Chris Basham last year's highlights of him defending for his life, and he just clears the ball off nonchalantly, and he by far was our Player of the Year. He did a lot. He saved a lot of goals, and then you had Hendo, of course, in goal, but he's back at United, so.
Yeah, you're mentioning Dean Henderson there. How disappointed were you guys to see him go back to Man U? I know there were talks that, hey, maybe Blades can get him back on a loan, but then he signed the new deal with Man U. Was that pretty disappointing for you guys?
I mean, in the back of my mind, you always got to look and say, okay, he's not our player. We're never going to be able to afford him. He's a United player. He did great things for us being at the club. He excelled. We grew him into a England call-up goalkeeper. And I mean, yeah, my heart hurt when he finally announced that he wasn't coming back to the club. But we also have to find a goalkeeper that can be our number one, and so we don't have to rely on a lone goalkeeper. Yes, Dino, I'd love to have him back this year. I'd love to have him in goal this year. But he just had to go back to United. He's going to fight for his place with De Gea at United, but I think we made a good signing at goalkeeper, so I think we're in good hands. Yes, I miss Dino, and I want him to come back, but the guy we have between the sticks coming up this year is going to be a pretty good one, I have a feeling.
Yeah, so that's Aaron Ramsdale, and I think just in general, the importance of a goalkeeper in the EPL that can win you points, win you games kind of week in, week out, can never be underestimated. So do you think he can go to similar heights that Henderson did for you guys and be a successful replacement?
I think he can. It's just a matter of, when he was at Bournemouth last year, yeah, they conceded a lot of goals, and he gave up a lot of goals, but his back line, I mean, wasn't exactly the best. But I think he's going to excel, yeah, at Sheffield United this year. Coming back, he was a boyhood Blade, and then he obviously went out. But yeah, I think he's going to be, with that back line in front of him, it's going to give him the confidence to where he can save any shot that is coming towards him. He's not going to struggle like he did at Bournemouth. He'll have a lot more clean sheets, and he will get his his confidence will go up, and he will. I think he's going to be a Sheffield United goalkeeper for a while.
So other than Ramsdale, what's the signing that you guys are most excited about from this transfer window so far?
Well, as of this recording, we have just signed Ramsdale and another backup goalkeeper. But as at the time of this recording, we are about to sign Jaden Bogle and Max Lowe from Derby. So I'm curious. Those are two young players that I am curious to see what happens when they fall into Sheffield United's team. How they're gonna set up. They're probably gonna be role players, but I'm curious to see what these young kids because Chris Wilder he's not the type of manager that goes out and is gonna throw a boatload of money at some player that he had one good season and now he's worth all this money. He's wise and he evaluates all these different players, especially even because most of our talent pool has come from League One and League Two, and he can go down there and recruit, and he knows what he's looking for, what players fit best in his side. So I have, and rumors are that there's a few more signings laying in the weeds over the next week before the season starts next weekend, that we're probably going to lock up. So I'm really encouraged with what's going to happen through through the rest of the transfer window.
I think it will be in terms of our types of teams. I think it will be a later transfer window this time around, and we'll see some incomings up to our game next week. But I think for many teams, it's going to be like a domino effect. A lot of deals happening, and then that runs all the way through to when the transfer window comes to a close. So finally, Chad, we're going to wrap up here, and we're kind of just going to ask you, going into this new season, what is your prediction? Is European football again on your radar?
I don't know. I keep going back and forth on this, and as much money has been spent through the top 6 teams, I don't believe we're gonna get sixth or in the top 6 unless we have a crazy Leicester season and we go and win the whole thing. But I see us finishing. I think we'll finish probably around the same spot. Yeah, I have us tabbed either not between 9th and 12th. I'm leaning more towards 12th. We'll come back down to reality and kind of we'll have some results that went for us last year are going to go against us because, I mean, we should have had. If you look back at last year, we should have had 6 points off the Spurs. We could have had 6 points off of Chelsea too. So, yeah. I mean, you've got to look to see like, hey, those games aren't going to necessarily go our way with the amount of talent that those teams have brought in through the transfer window. So me being optimistic, I'll say 8th, but realistically, probably 12th.
Good deal. Well, we wish you every success for the next season, apart from the 2 games against the Wolves. Yeah. And thank you very much for coming on Whole Lot of Wolves.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So how are we gonna watch the game on Monday then, Josh?
I'm gonna be watching it on Peacock, which is a really cool service. I have Xfinity, so I get Peacock for free, and that includes all of the games this year. So it's gonna be a great way to watch them this season.
Is it kind of different package, or what's your recommendation about what folks need to purchase in order to catch all the games this year?
Well, yeah, I think definitely they already said all the games are going to be on Peacock, which is a lot better than what we saw with NBC Gold Pass last year. That was pretty expensive for the season, and all it was were sports, whereas Peacock does have some more NBC shows and everything, if that's something you're interested in.
Gold, it was gold, and if you had the NBC Sports through your regular cable, all the other games are on there. But also heard that Peacock's actually in 4K and HDR.
That's great. Yeah, I think NBC has definitely made the commitment to the Premier League, which is smart. It's smart by them. It's smart by the Premier League, especially with the way some American sports are still struggling with coronavirus and kind of struggling a little bit in the ratings.
But also found it also hilarious that, our game's actually going to be on NBC Sports N, but the Chelsea Brighton game's going to be on Peacock. And like I see all the Chelsea fans fuming. I'm like, well, I have to watch most of my games on that, so you can suck it up.
Yeah, Chelsea can thank Brighton, I would guess, for that one.
Yeah.
So in this week in our supporter group focus, it's over to you, Chris, to tell everybody about Ohio Wolves. Where do you meet up? How do you keep in touch and everything like that?
Well, Ohio Wolves, I founded it in 2018, mainly for the worldwide White Wolves. I originally was trying to get Wolves USA, my Facebook group in there, but I had to do one locally. So, technically, it was actually Wolves USA was founded in Columbus, so made it a little easier to start Wolves Ohio. We watch games usually at Fido's if I'm off, and if there's enough people, because we're actually kind of spread out all over Ohio, so we're not very local to everybody. But I get a few people out from Columbus. We get together at least once. Try to get together at least once every 1 month or 2 months. 2 months. We go to Fido's over at Easton Town Center. It's like the main mall. Fido's, the big Irish pub chain, but most of the guys know me there. So, and actually, fun fact, our one of our MLS supporter groups actually have a Sunday pub team actually wears Wolves jerseys. If you follow Tim Spears on the Atlantic, he actually used one of their photos for one of his blurbs, because Wolves are supposed to come over and play Club America in the States, so he was trying to get the American stuff behind it.
Tim Spears is worth, by the way, the subscription for the Athletic. Just tremendous stuff that he provides.
I actually like him better since he doesn't have the Express and Star, trying to censor him.
Right. Yeah, he's full blown Wolves, that's for sure.
If you're in Chris's part of the country, Chris, can you let the folks know how they can get in touch, how they can contact you, maybe come and watch your game with you guys?
Oh, on Facebook, best place to find me is on Wolves USA first. Then I have a WWFCOHIO on Facebook group also. You can find me on Twitter at WWFCOHIO, and then I can usually get everything going from there.
Yeah, that Facebook group is a lot of fun. I know there's a great group that enjoys talking during games on it. Finally, on to No Stupid Questions. This is your baby, Paul. So part where we encourage people to get in touch about everything Wolves related that you always wanted to know, but you've been too afraid to ask. So you can either tweet us or ask us on our Facebook page. And if you want to stay anonymous, you can fill out the form on our website at wholelotofwolves.com. So Paul, what you got for us this year?
Yeah, this one is definitely for you two guys, and it comes from Stu on Twitter. He asks, can you tell the difference between the Wolverhampton accent and those from other parts of England?
I can, yes, because I actually listened to it before I actually went over, so I could pick something out, because I actually went to the pie factory, Matterworks Pie Factory, and I was on a bus in Tipton. I'm like, I could not understand a word the guy said. I'm like, I'm listening to my buddy. I'm like, I can understand him. I can't understand the other guy.
Was that Bully in Tipton by any chance? Or
no, the guy wasn't Bully. I can understand Bully.
Yeah, he speaks pretty quick.
But yeah, I can pick up Scouse and West Country and Cockney, a little bit of Yorkshire and Geordie, but hard one sometimes is Brummy and Yam Yam, but once you listen to it enough, it's easy to pick out, though.
Well, guys, that'll end this first episode of Whole Lot of Wolves. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys make sure and subscribe so you can get updates every week, and join us as we go through this, what we're looking forward to, an awesome season this year, and hopefully a return to European football.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Do what you can. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, give us 5 stars if you can on whatever podcast channel that you're listening to. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, kind sir. We hope to invite you back for more of these as the season progresses. So thanks once again.
Well, thanks, Chris. thank you guys for having me. I hope I'll see you guys online soon. So.
Oh yeah, you know where to find us.
And invite me as much as possible.
And we'll catch everyone next time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ta-ra.